Just close your eyes. Know the peace within.
Beloved GM, suffering leads to the awakening of consciousness, isn't it?
Your consciousness is ever in the source of awareness. Unknowingly, it accepts itself to be a form within duality. In stillness, your consciousness is conscious of itself. Once it is conscious of itself, it remains free from identifications at the duality level. When your consciousness remains free from identifications, it is conscious of itself. Consciousness knows its unending richness through constant peace and joy. Consciousness remains wakeful through peace and joy. Consciousness remains wakeful only when it is free from words and identifications. Consciousness is prior to form happening in space. Unknowingly, it is accepting the form to be itself. Consciousness is prior to identifications. Unknowingly, it accepts identifications to be itself. Consciousness is prior to words. Unknowingly, it accepts the words to be itself. Consciousness is already free from the duality show. Unknowingly, it accepts the duality show to be itself. Consciousness cannot suffer once it is conscious of itself inwardly. Consciousness appears to suffer only at the form level, at the duality level, in space. Your consciousness is yet to know that it is already prior to duality, prior to form. Out of your consciousness only, world happens spontaneously just now. Every movement happens spontaneously just now. Every form happens spontaneously just now. Every object happens spontaneously just now. Entire cosmos happens spontaneously just now. Your consciousness is yet to know that out of itself only, entire duality show spontaneously happens just now. Your consciousness is accepting itself to be a person at the form level. Hence, constantly it appears to struggle within duality due to consistent identifications. Your consciousness is already free from sufferings at the duality level. To know this secret, your consciousness needs to stabilize inwardly to know the unmoving stillness within. By knowing the stillness within, your consciousness is free from the movements and the changes of the duality show. Suffering is at the identification level, at the dream level, of the duality show. Through sufferings, your consciousness identifies the duality show to be real. Your consciousness cannot remain conscious of itself unless it is free from identifications at the duality level. Your consciousness is peaceful and joyful inwardly. Unknowingly, it identifies the perceived dreamy duality show happening to be real. Through identifications, your consciousness remains ignorant about its non-dual, unborn reality. Once your consciousness is conscious of itself in stillness, it knows the unmoving peace within. It is your consciousness that remains ignorant about its unborn eternity at the non-dual level. It is your consciousness that appears to suffer through identifications at the duality level. Your consciousness knowing its unending eternal reality is most essential. Your consciousness knows its ultimate wholeness only when it is conscious of itself inwardly. By stabilizing inwardly, your consciousness is free from identifications at the duality level and remains wakeful. Through constant wakefulness, by settling inwardly, your consciousness wakes up totally to realize its endless, absolute, unborn richness beyond duality. Through sufferings, your consciousness cannot wake up. Only when your consciousness remains free from identifications, it starts knowing the unmoving stillness inwardly and wakes up totally. Your consciousness knows its unmoving richness only when it is conscious of itself inwardly. Your consciousness sleeps through sufferings endlessly at the duality level. Your consciousness wakes up peacefully once it is conscious of itself inwardly. Once your consciousness remains free from the identifications of the form level duality show, it starts knowing its unlimited, unending richness within. Your consciousness, trapped by the sufferings of the duality show, remains wakeful once it is free from identifications. Your consciousness is already non-dual. Unknowingly, it identifies the perceived duality to be itself, like how you identify the dream to be real till you wake up, to realize that none of the perceived dream is real. Exactly here, your consciousness wakes up from the perceived duality show once it wakes up consciously inwardly. Your consciousness is wakeful already inwardly. Unknowingly, it identifies the sufferings of the perceived duality to be real, as it is yet to wake up totally to realize that it is ever in the ultimate non-dual, endless, eternal reality. Wakefulness is not possible through identifications at the duality level. Stop worrying about the sufferings which are not you and start focusing your attention inwardly beyond words so that your consciousness starts knowing its ever-present infinite richness prior to the suffering of the duality show. Stay beyond words. Observe silently. Know the stillness within. Now, your consciousness is wakeful to realize that it is ever in the beginningless, non-dual source.